Yes, it is an amazing Tessitura community. Welcome to TLCC. It is great to be here again in Orlando, only the second city besides San Diego where the network has produced the Tessitura Learning and Community Conference 3 times. For 2018, we are thrilled to be here at the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin Resort. Thank you so much for coming. The Tessitura Network team is here to be your hosts. Together, the 200+ individuals pictured support your organizations, deliver world-class consulting services, develop industry-leading software and e-commerce technology, provide and manage hosted deployment, supply documentation and training, secure new member organizations for the Tessitura community, facilitate community events like this one, where knowledge and insights are shared, and we administer a business that is laser-focused on your success. I'd love to introduce you individually to every single person of this dedicated all-star team of professionals, but that would take most of the afternoon. So let's meet the whole team. Team Tessitura, would you please rise and take a bow? Okay, you can sit down now. You are all here with a goal of going back to your organizations with ideas about how to improve your businesses and how you can grow in your roles and your careers. We at the network are mission-focused to help bring about your success. And career-wise, each of us came to where we are through our own unique set of circumstances, both planned and serendipitous. As to me, I grew up a student of business. Actually, first, in grade school, I tried being musical. I learned how to play the guitar, was in a folk trio, but learned I was somewhat tone deaf and realized music was not going to cut it. And we are a technology company. I did computer programming in college. Fortran, anyone? But the all-nighters at the University Computing Center putting in card decks to run on the mainframe was really tedious and tiring. Compiling had a whole different perspective back then. There was one constant I kept on coming back to: business. I was good at math, started reading the Wall Street Journal as a teenager, worked in sales and other jobs all the way through high school and college to earn money to go on dates and buy a car. And I checked that box on the college application that I was going to major in business. And 2 business degrees later, with specialties in marketing, entrepreneurship, finance, and management, that was my career. And that early interest in business became that career path. And I continue to be a lifelong learner and voracious consumer of business and strategy books. My bookshelf and Kindle are full of Peter Drucker, Michael Porter, Tom Peters, Jim Collins, Andy Grove, and many others. And as you learned last year, my quest to help arts and cultural organizations free themselves from silos led me to Gillian Tett and the silo effect. And silos come into play again this year. There are so many books about management, and upon reflection, what has always intrigued me is how interchangeably people refer to managers and leaders, and thus leadership and management are used to describe situations with little or no distinction. That interchangeability assumption could not be farther from the truth as to what leadership can accomplish and what management is needed for. If resources and people were not managed well, service and quality would suffer. There would be poor productivity and many bad consequences. And without real leadership to seize opportunities, there would be lack of innovation and positive change. The leadership management distinction hit home to me early in my career. I've been serving arts and culture with technology and services now for almost 20 years. But I started out my career in retailing, specialty chemicals, and manufacturing, real traditional businesses. I was excited about leadership opportunities, but in hindsight, many of my early jobs were managerial in nature, running ad campaigns, controlling inventory, instituting a strategic planning program, and other interesting assignments. It turns out there were a few sink or swim situations that started to highlight for me the distinction between managing something and leading. One of my early sink or swim moments was at age 29. I was with an industrial products company and charged with making acquisitions to diversify our business into different sectors, an aspirational goal for sure. Our chairman finalized a deal to buy a decades-old workplace personal safety products that made safety goggles to protect your eyes and a fairly random product line beyond that. I flew to upstate New York with him for the closing, expecting to assist with managing the company integration into our structure. After we signed the papers, that night in a parking lot of a Wendy's, in a pouring rainstorm, he told me he was flying back in the morning and good luck with running the company. He'll look for my quarterly reports. It was only ironic that we were walking through ankle-deep water in the rain, and that sink or swim metaphor became very real. This was my leadership opportunity. I realized almost immediately that the newly acquired company needed to change quickly, and if we did not stimulate new product growth, we would be dead in the water and our investment could be lost. And I realized management needed dramatic change. Within a few months, I recruited an industry veteran as CEO, a new CFO, a new VP of sales and marketing, and the CEO and I focused on growth. We soon acquired, patented, and initiated multiple new products. We expanded distribution channels, and over time, we bought a half a dozen more companies to add to the product line and the markets. We went global with a product that some of you might recognize. In this case, the product idea came from two owners of a Mexican restaurant that patented a concept to prevent slips and falls, but had no money to take it further. That division was profitable, and about 15 years or so later, we sold the then much larger company for a strong return on investment. I fortunately recognized that leadership was vital in that situation, and the experience imprinted on me how big opportunities needed to be recognized and embraced when and where needed. Leadership opportunities, when presented and successfully executed, are a time when organizations can thrive and survive. Leadership moments can be forced on you, as they were on me, by circumstances or by events, such as the unprecedented flooding last year in Houston, where leaders of arts organizations rose to extraordinary levels to rapidly arrange their entire upcoming seasons in alternate venues. And leadership can also surface by purposefully creating moments of change to enable an organization to succeed and grow, and thus stay relevant. And with my role at Tessitura, I've been privileged to get to know hundreds of arts and cultural organizations, many in this room, and I've seen some very well-run organizations, some amazing initiatives, and occasionally organizations in transition that were in danger of failing or needed significant changes to get back to being relevant. One such example is the City Recital Hall in Sydney, Australia. Their dynamic CEO, Elaine Chia, presented a Tessitura Innovator Series talk live last year at Anstruck, the Tessitura Conference. Elaine went into an organization that had outgrown its business model, and the owner, the City of Sydney, decided a change was needed. Elaine was brought in to lead the City Recital Hall to a different, sustainable, and vibrant business model. So let's hear about that leadership opportunity and the big changes directly from Elaine with a few excerpts from her talk.
I don't think it's too harsh to say that the venue, even though it had been very well managed, was falling behind the others, especially the new kids on the block that had popped up in the last 16 years, in terms of profile, brand, technical capabilities, and most importantly, vibrancy. People who know us love us. But what I discovered in my first few months was that there were many, many people out there, and that's artists as well as audiences, who didn't know we existed. Attracting new audiences and meaningful engagement with those audiences is a challenge, especially for companies like us in that we rarely, if ever, do more than one concert of anything. And it's really hard, I'll be truthful, to sell 1,200 seats. The idea of Flash Mob Choir is that you don't need to RSVP. There is no commitment. You get the SMS with the date and the time, and if you want to, you turn up. You can bring a friend. You can bring 10 friends. We took bets on how many registrations we'd receive. So one of the team hoped for 500. I actually hoped for 1,000 because it's a biggish number that you can report to your board, right? On our third day, we reached 1,000 registrations. We were really excited, so we posted this. 2 days later, we had 2,000. Then 3,000. We stopped promoting it. This is what happened. 750 people turned up at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning to have Richard Gill lead them in singing I Will Survive. These are just some of the ways we've started to reimagine City Recital Hall. We want to show that this place is great for all sorts of music. We visualised our foyers, not just as transit spaces, but as places to pause, relax, and as entertainment spaces in themselves. We seem to be bringing renewed and new interest to City Recital Hall. People are talking to us and about us. Our database is expanding and becoming more diverse. We need to continuously test what we do, as not everything will work, but as long as we have more wins than fails, then that's okay. And for me personally, and what I tell the team is, let's continue to be brave, but to be peacefully disruptive whilst doing so. Because when you see people respond to you like this, and like this, how can you not just keep going?
I had the chance to catch up with her again a couple of months ago to see the progress since. It is impressive. Elaine acted on a big opportunity where there was a clear need for change. And as I continue to digest thoughts from and see firsthand some of the brightest and most forward-thinking business leaders across the world of arts and culture, it occurred to me that there is no magic potion, no special formula. Every organization is unique. Every set of circumstances is different. Every challenge can be viewed through multiple viewpoints. But there is one thing in common, not the same, but a common factor. That is, every organization has the ability to identify their big opportunity that could take them from average to outperforming, could transform a product or service offering from mundane to enticing, could start them on the road to success from a sliding slope of programming decline to a period of fiscal and artistic success. This year, I look to the world's preeminent expert on leadership and change, John Kotter, Harvard Business School professor and consultant, to bring out a fresh, persuasive take on achieving strategic agility in the face of continual change and disruption. Kotter identified the concept of the big opportunity in his thought-provoking book, Accelerate. Professor Kotter makes a strong case that the traditional management approach, even if solid, will not lead organizations to the future, and he advocates for an agile, bureaucracy-free coalition of volunteers within the organization to accomplish great change when needed, a dual operating system framework, he calls it. So with thanks and attribution to Professor Kotter's book and a few other articles by him, I'd like to weave distinctions between management and leadership, bring in the concept of the big opportunity, and provide a matrix to identify where you might see your organization now and what you might aspire to. Let's look first at the list of management responsibilities versus leadership imperatives. Management is planning, budgeting, organizing, staffing, measuring, problem solving, essentially doing what we know how to do exceptionally well. And leadership is establishing direction, aligning people, motivating people, inspiring, mobilizing people to achieve astonishing results. That is, propelling us into the future. There are people from all departments and all levels in this room today. And I want to emphasize that leadership does not have to be a leader or the leader alone in an organization. There can be initiatives from all over the company. And an interesting and powerful change was embraced at one of the smallest organizations in the Tessitura Network that illustrates this very well. About a year and a half ago, Laura Bowden, VP of Administration, and I visited Pittsburgh Arts and Lectures. In their office, above a Chinese restaurant, we found a cohesive, positive, small, and incredibly collaborative team that brings the top authors in the world to Pittsburgh for sold-out events. And their innovative approach to leadership is told in the words of Shauna Carrick, Vice President of Strategic Initiatives.
Hi, I'm Shauna Carrick and I'm with Pittsburgh Arts and Lectures. Our organization has 5 employees that fully utilize Tessitura. We have slightly more earned income than contributed income, and we have a renewal season every year for our main series where we ask every subscriber to become a donor, and fundraising and ticket sales are done in the same ask. Over 50% of our subscribers are also contributors at some level. Single tickets start at $15, and we frequently sell out our 1,800-seat hall. Over 80% of our audience is comprised of subscribers. While we obviously have a leadership structure and need to manage our activities efficiently, we all take collective responsibility for the success of Pittsburgh Arts and Lectures, and we have completely eliminated silos. A few years ago, we decided not to hire a director of marketing for our organization of 5 people. We realized that marketing isn't just one person's job, it's everybody's. We've changed the organization strategy to each have specialties that we're primarily responsible for, but there is at least one other person who's cross-trained in each area. This way we cut down on the time it takes to make decisions, making us a more agile organization. We measure our success with more programs offered, larger and new audiences, strong ticket sales and sponsorship revenue, rising community profile, and expanded community partnerships. We respect each other's ideas and we're able to respond to concerns and new initiatives quickly because we fostered a culture of open communication and trust. Not only does Tessitura help us break down silos and operate as leaders, in addition to managing our activities, having Tessitura is like having another team member.
Shauna and her team recognized that an open position represented their big opportunity to reimagine their organization as a shared leadership model to create a higher performing organization. And Connor makes a compelling case to accelerate an organization around creating a sense of urgency around a single big opportunity. The big opportunity is usually the product of changes in an organization's environment, he says. These changes could be new markets, new advances in technology, new demands being placed on the enterprise by competition, by turmoil, by changes in the organization, or other compelling factors. A big opportunity is something that can lead to significant outcomes and fulfillment of mission at levels never before achieved. And a big opportunity is both rational in light of the available data and emotionally compelling to the people in the organization. Speaking of compelling, recently I had the opportunity to meet with a man I respect greatly who took on such a compelling opportunity. I've known Ted Deedy in Madison, in Dallas, in Nashville, as he opened and operated and turned around symphony halls and performing arts centers. Ted recently retired. I don't quite believe it, but I have to accept it. And I wanted to visit before he left the building. A big opportunity was thrust on Ted when he accepted the role of CEO in Madison, Wisconsin at the Overture Center in 2012, at a time when the organization's very survival was being questioned. While some might have been tempted to play it safe and manage or expense cut their way out of this tight spot, Ted knew instead that he needed to lead and inspire. Let's hear about leadership directly from Ted.
The biggest challenge was a question in everybody's mind: would Overture succeed? Well, the reality was that business could not be usual. This could no longer be thought of as a city-managed operation or could the daily process of putting on events and moving forward be seen in the same light? It had to be transformed into a nonprofit agency, but also an entrepreneurial agency. The reality in my mind was that we could no longer focus on expenses. Of course, expenses of any organization is paramount, but more so, being an entrepreneurial agency, we had to focus on revenue, both in ticket sales, donors, subscribers, and long-term replacement of the debt through creating an endowment. Silos definitely existed here, no question about it, and was recognized from the very beginning, realized that we had to break those down. My feeling is that a real leader is one who is certainly looked upon as being the person who is going to provide the vision, provide the inspiration, provide the creativity for helping both the staff and the board and the community to do new things and to feel excited about what the potential is for an organization or performing arts center. But a real leader is a person who also realizes that they don't have all the answers. A leader is one that is a person that looks at all the resources, looks at all the fractures in an organization, and also starts to be very attuned to what the possibilities could be. The thing that I've always found to be the most flexible organization is one that is not bound by mounds of rules and regulations and bureaucracy, but is an organization that is allowed to grow and flourish and change by able to change literally on a moment's notice if they need to be opportunistic, entrepreneurial, and to recognize that what has been, even if it's a comfortable environment in an organization, doing the same things over and over again year after year, an organization like that eventually cannot succeed by standing still, but has to always be looking at itself, reinventing itself.
Ted and the Overture story represent the best of leadership, appealing to hearts and minds, and the best of management, and drawing out the best from a small, strong team. We all face change. Change is the only constant. The basic question we must ask, the Tessitura Network included, is what strategic challenges do we have and what is changing around us? Some of you are grappling with funding changes, and our community talks a lot about the challenge of aging audiences, demographic shifts, and the competition for people's attention. Digital technology has and will continue to change the way that we transact, reach, and communicate with our customers, even how we learn. And technology and new forms of communications have evolved consumer expectations to desire personalized interactions. Consumers of arts and culture are shopping for packaged experiences, to be opportunities to be social, and all of your organizations are striving to create those compelling reasons for them to leave their couches and get away from their tiny screens. How are you responding to these major changes? Does your organizational structure embrace change or get in the way of what's happening? And what new opportunities might exist? Silos inherent in management-driven hierarchies mask the challenges as they often isolate the people that are needed the most to respond to a big opportunity. These people are focused instead on managing their day-to-day priorities. So I challenge you to make sure your organization is not missing the proverbial forest by spending all the time taking care of the trees. For sure, good management is absolutely essential. Without it, doors would not open on time, sets and exhibits would not be ready when needed, service would not be excellent, fundraising would miss its targets, numbers would not be met. Essentially, the organization would not operate productively. However, management alone will not enable organizations to meet the future with relevant, timely, bold, and enticing opportunities and offerings. Connor from Harvard puts leadership and management in a matrix so that we can see what to strive to. The 4 matrix squares range from doomed, obviously not where we want to be, to well-run but bureaucratic and unable to change quickly, to innovative and adaptive and energetic but chaotic, to the upper right aspirational quadrant of well-run and innovative, adaptive, and energetic. Do you recognize where your organization is in this matrix? Yes, good management is essential to succeed, and many of you do that very, very well, but we cannot manage our way into the future. Leadership can come from all levels and all over the organization. You can all lead your way into the future, and you can do so with purpose, direction, and with future changing and future embracing goals in mind. This week at TLCC, we all have an opportunity. While you are here, take advantage of the hundreds of sessions and discussions that Don talked about. Utilize the diversity of your fellow attendees from different genres, similar and different roles, and far-flung locales. The next 5 days might well give you the occasion to formulate your next strategy and start to meet the current big and little opportunities in your organization head on. What took us to where we are will not take us to where we need to be. The founder of a company that is great at management and has the highest reputation of leadership in the entertainment sector once said, "The way to get started is to quit talking and start doing." Thank you, Walt Disney, for your advice. So I'm going to take Walt's advice and stop talking and say, let's do it. Have a great week. Thank you.